Hello and welcome to Cyber Life. My name is Ken Underhill, your host. In today's episode, we have a very special guest, CEO Joe Stimac. Joe is the founder of Accuhire.com as well as InterviewReady.com. So he helps both organizations and individuals prepare for job interviews. And Joe is also a research scientist and a best-selling author. Joe has over 20 years of helping global employers, government agencies, special forces units all over the world, Ivy League universities, and some of the top tech companies that you know with their interviews. So that way they can hire the highest performers out there. And as I mentioned, Joe and his team recently created InterviewReady.com to help job seekers just like you understand how employers actually are hiring and help you improve your interview skills. And we'd like to say a big thanks to Joe and his companies Accuhire and InterviewReady.com for sponsoring this episode of Cyber Life. So Joe, you've been helping very large companies for over 20 years with their interview process. Why the sudden pivot to starting to help job seekers as well?
Watching interview boards is what I do. I sit in the back of the room and I observe and I make comments on how they can improve them. What I noticed was incredible applicants come through and they bomb the interview, and there's no reason for it. I look at the resumes, I look, wow, this person's outstanding. It's obvious they didn't prepare. So they come in unprepared, they try to wing it, and then they just basically fail the interview. So I thought, I see both sides of the fence. I need to share with them what I teach the employer side what to do. So I need to help the applicants really succeed. Most people have the stories within them. I just help bring them out so they really build up their confidence and their stories come out really good.
So Joe, what are some of the mistakes that you see people making when they're applying for different jobs out there?
They don't prepare. They don't look at the job definition. They don't look at what they need to be doing. They try to prepare when they're in the interview. That's not the time to do it. So what you need to do, it's simple. Understand there's two times you're going to be remembered. Is the number one is how you open the interview, how your interview starts. You have to set a good example, show them, look them in the eye and tell them, hey, look, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my credentials. And the next part is the end of the interview. And so the questions might be, do you have any questions for us? And untrained interviewees, especially young applicants, they say, well, no, thank you. And I really appreciate it. This has been great. That's wrong. That's just like saying I have no interest in this job. I really don't want it. So, go focus on other people. What they should be doing is saying, yes, I do. I have some questions. And you're welcome to pull out your set of questions. The faintest ink is better than the strongest memory. So, as long as you can see them, you can look at them. And what happens is they ask questions that benefit them, not the company. And that's not the time to do that. The way you have to do that, understand that the job opening exists because there's an opportunity or there's a need that needs to be filled. The company needs help and they're looking for someone to fit that need. Okay, so the best questions to ask are these, not what's this job pay or how do you like your job, is what specific challenges are you trying to solve by filling this role? Now that's a powerful question. It says, I want to know what your problems are. I want to come here and help you fill that role. I want to help you fill the problems you're having. And if you can do that, that's going to impress the heck out of an interviewer. It's like, wow, you're here to help me. This is awesome. So that's the kind of question they should be looking at. Just remember, you're there to help them solve a problem, not them to help you solve your unemployment problem. If you can do that, you're going to do well.
Now, Joe, we've talked about in the past the different biases that are part of the interview process. Do you mind just talking a little bit about some of the biases that you've seen out there?
Biases are funny. We all have them. Right now, if you think of someone, if I ask you to think of a physician, what comes to mind? What gender, national origin, color are they? What background are they? You would probably cite some of the similar to your background. But the problem with that is it's just already showing your biases. Now, if you're the applicant and you don't meet their preconceived notion, you fall into a thing called unconscious bias. So you have to basically be really good during the interview to overcome those biases. So I'll give you another one. Unconscious bias is basically what I think, I want to hear from you. That's also another thing called after effect heuristics. What that means is gut instinct. I want to make a gut instinct decision based on what I think I know. There's another one called similar to me bias. If you remind me of me, or if you remind me of things that I like doing, you same speech rate, same eye contact, that kind of stuff, you're liable to get more points. And this is what people don't get. These are the easy points to get. Don't knock yourself down with these points by not being ready for the biases that come in there. Now, here's one you probably didn't think of: ageism. Now, think about that. Ageism. Everybody thinks, oh, yeah, the folks in the 60 plus range. No, ageism is also for students just coming out of college. That's also reverse ageism. They figure they have no experience, they have no transferable skills, nothing. I'll give you a good example. My attorney, his nephew, had a job interview. Actually, had 3 interviews. Straight great kids, 3.9 GPA, no job offer. He gets these interviews and he gets out of there, no job offer. So finally, Bob called me and said, "Hey, can you help him out?" I said, "Sure." So I asked him, what's going on? You're getting interviews, which means you should be getting job offers. So what are you doing during the interview that you're blowing it? Because I don't know, it's like, okay, so what kind of questions are they asking? Well, we start off, and then he's kind of a shy kid, which doesn't help either, but you can practice that ahead of time. So what happens is this: when he's inside an interview, the employer is looking at his resume, says, "Well, I don't see a whole lot of work experience here." And he would say, "Well, I really don't have it. I'm just recently out of college." So he said, the interviewer says, "I'm really hesitant about extending a job offer to you because of your lack of experience." And so he replies, "Well, yeah, I understand. Thank you for seeing me," and walks out the door. Like, no. How did you get that GPA? What did you do? Did you ever have to meet a deadline? He goes, "I had deadlines all over the place." Okay, that's a transferable skills. Did you ever have to present a presentation up front on something, your project you're working on? He goes, "Yeah, I was a team lead on a project. I had to present with the rest of the team what we did as a team." Really? Look at all the skills you have. And he says, "You mean I can use those?" Like, where have you been? We need you to understand that those transferable skills are great. That's what the employers want to hear. So next time somebody says, "Well, I'm really just don't know, don't feel confident extending a job offer to you because I don't see any real experience," but I do have it. I was a team captain here. I did this. I managed projects. I met extreme deadlines. Everything that your job requires, I've already done it. I can give you specific examples where I've done every one of these things. Funny story. Next interview he goes inside there. I get a phone call directly from him. He's ecstatic on the other end. "Guess what? I got a job offer on the spot." I'm like, "How did that go from no job to job offer?" You change your approach. You just have to look within. What do you bring to the employer? Understand how the employer thinks. If you can do that, you're going to do great during the job interview. It was that simple.
So one of the biggest frustration points for a hiring manager is someone comes in for an interview and they're totally not prepared. Sometimes they don't even remember what job they applied for or even what company they're at. Why do you think that is, Joe? Why do you think that people just don't prepare for these interviews?
You get a book, any book. I wish I had a book handy. I'd hold one up. You look at a book, 200, 300 pages. I don't know what applies to me. Can't you just tell me what I need to know? Be psychic somehow? No, it doesn't work that way. So what I did is I created a program online called interviewready.com. And what you do is you start out with an assessment and you answer a series of questions. I understand why employers hesitate extending job offers. I understand 5 mistakes unprepared interviewees make. And if you say, "No, I don't," it automatically writes a brief chapter on these. What you're doing, you're just getting a personalized study guide that's going to help you understand exactly what you need to study, not read a book and wonder, well, maybe that applies to me or not. Remember, books are for the generic audience. They're for the broadest audience possible. That means I'm going to try to hit everybody's problem. And you got to figure out which is your problem. Here, no, all it is, okay, you tell me what you don't know. And the chapters are brief. They could be anything from 2 paragraphs to a page and a half, 2 pages long. That's it. I want you looking for a job, not curing insomnia. So anyway, it's real simple to do, real simple information to get, but it's personalized. At the end, you're going to get a study guide that says, look, here's what you need to focus on. Don't make these mistakes. Because if you do these, for example, let's say you get a call for an interview and you forget to ask a few questions, confirm the name of the person you're going to be meeting with. Why is that important? Because you need to do some research. Go to LinkedIn and start looking up their name and see what they look for, what things they follow, who do they follow, what clubs or groups they belong to. You're already starting to get information about that person. So now you know how to slant your information. You know how to throw in a topic. Oh yeah, I just read Anthony Robbins, Waking a Giant Within. Oh, what a great book. Because you just saw favorite books that they read. And all of a sudden you got a connection there. And it's all about that. You're actually playing into the biases that you would not have thought of first in the first place. And that's going to push you to the front. All of a sudden, wow, they're just like me. The similar to me bias. Remember, if you do enough of these things here, you're going to get the job offer, and you're probably going to get a pretty good job offer. What was funny about that kid that couldn't get that interview or get that job offer, they offered him a signing bonus on the spot because he interviewed so well. So from going from nothing to that by just a small change. Well, here's the other problem is they just don't know how to prepare. Most books says, think of some questions you may be asked. I'm not an HR person. I don't know what I'm going to be asked. I don't even know what kind of formats they're going to ask me. That's the other thing you need to find out. Is this going to be a traditional interview, a behavioral interview, a situational interview, cognitive skills testing? What am I going to get into so I can somewhat prepare? Is this going to be a video-based interview like we're doing? There's another thing inside that tells you how to do that, how to do well inside an interview. I've seen people that put their laptop facing against the window, so they have the backlight is really bright. They look like and they're in a witness protection program. You can't see their face, but they're talking. This is not a good thing to do. So little things that make a big difference. Good interviewing is nothing more than good communication skills. And to do that, you need to practice.
So Joe, let's say that I'm a job seeker out there and I get that invitation to do the interview, to set up the interview. What should I do at that point?
First of all, thank them and express your strong interest for this job. As soon as I saw the job opening, I read it and I reread it and I thought, wow, this is exactly what I want to do. Tell them that, because they don't know who you are. They're going to hire for three things. Can you do the job? Will you do the job? And will you fit my team, my culture, my work group? So will you do the job is just as important. If you tell me that you're strongly motivated, I already have someone that, hey, really wants to do this job. I don't have to worry, hey, they're going to leave in 2 or 3 months. I know that they've read it over and over. The other thing you need to do is make sure that you ask several more questions, confirm the date and time of the interview, get the email of the person you're going to be interviewing with, because you need to send a follow-up or thank you note at the end. And I'll tell you what to include in there that really makes you stand out. It's pretty cool, real easy stuff. But get the name of the person, get their spelling. That also shows the person, the recruiter that's calling you, that you are highly attentive to detail, which is super important because they want to hire people that are highly attentive to detail. You're not going to miss things. There's nothing worse than getting the wrong name. You can't remember the person's name you're supposed to meet with. They don't know you. The receptionist has no clue that you're supposed to meet with Mr. Smith or Mr. Jones, Mrs. Smith, or whoever. Get to know them and then start researching them. Then the other thing you want to know is start researching the company. You want to know 2 or 3 things the company's recently done. Have they gone through a merger and acquisition? Have they produced a new product, new service, something out there that they're proud of, that they put in the news? Something that you could tell them, hey, I did my homework on you guys. I really want this job. So that's some of the easiest ones.
So Joe, some of the advice out there is, hey, you need to do your research in advance of the company and what they're working on, et cetera. Do you think as part of that pre-research that a job applicant does, they need to also try to figure out how do the position they're applying for and that they're interviewing for actually ties into the company's mission?
Yeah, absolutely. Find out how they, if their values and mission statement correspond to what you want. There's nothing worse than going to a company that doesn't share that. And a good way to do that, look on Glassdoor.com or Yelp.com and read the reviews from previous employees. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Some of these people are just disgruntled, that no matter what they do, they're going to write nasty reviews. But look at the overall picture. If the overall 70% or greater are negative, you probably want to steer away from that company, which is sad. The CEO has not done their homework. They have not researched what the people are thinking about them, and it's almost impossible to fill those roles. And what you will fill them is people that will leave very quickly. So probably not a good idea. But if the company has great credentials, great reviews, you're probably very excited to join them because they treat their people right. So,
all right, Joe. So I'm the job candidate. I've done the interview. What should I do next? Like, what are my next steps after the interview?
People that don't know this, they will say, thank you for seeing me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, blah, blah, blah. It's nothing. Before you leave, remember I said, ask the questions. Can you give me 3 specific challenges you're trying to solve by filling this position? Or the person that you hire will need to be able to work on in the first 3 months. 3 challenges. So what you want to do is go back and quickly get out of once you leave the interview, write them down and write down these things. They need this, this, and this. And in your thank you note, you want to mention you mentioned 3 things you want to solve. One of the things you mentioned really stood out for me was you need to improve whatever your your supply chain timeliness. I've done some research on this. So here's an article that I'd like to share with you. I really would appreciate the opportunity to work with your company and bring the values that I can. They're already seeing you work. So when they get that email, they open it up where that, if you want to write, great. Most people accept emails. Make sure you get the right email spelling. What they're going to see is, wow, this person not only is excited, they're already doing research for us. I just use this to help the 61-year-old lawyer get a job. 18 interviews, no job offers. I said, all right, what are you doing? What are you asking? You're doing something wrong. Because if you get the interview on paper, you already got the job offer. You talked yourself out of it. Something you said or did during that interview, turn them off. So what you've got to do is look back. And I said, all right, let me hear some of your questions. Why does this job become available? That's in every book out there. Useless. Don't do that. Or how do you like working here? Are you the interviewer now? I need you to find out what their pain points are. Ask the questions. What specific challenges are you trying to solve by filling this role? Then go back and do some research. And even if you're wrong, they're going to say, wow, not only did they offer a solution, just like this gentleman, 61-year-old said, hey, here's some case laws that you can review that would solve the problem you're having up in Reno. And they wrote back, we've never had an applicant provide us with information that, you're not even working for us. Why did you do that? Because I want to work for you. I'm excited to work for you. That small difference made everything. Not only did I get the job, but I got a huge salary, starting salary.
So Joe, based on your over 20 years of working with some of the top companies globally, any final advice that you'd like to share with the audience out there?
Look at the job description. Underline the key things that are in it. This job requires you make presentations on a weekly basis, needs to analyze the information. Okay, for each one of those, you need to have an interview question to prepare for and have an answer ready. Think of a story that you've done, or you can do it on interviewready.com has that a complete database of questions. You can build a custom interview within 10 minutes. That's just like the companies that I work with. It's the opposite side, it's the applicant side. This is how they do it. And the questions are similar. They even have the follow-up questions. This is why they're there. For example, tell me about a time you had to work with a difficult customer. Okay, what options did you try with them? What made them so angry? Which option resonated with them? How did they respond to your efforts? And finally, how did it turn out using PAR, problem, action, results? So no matter what the story is, tell me the problem, tell me what action you took, who you talked to, who was involved, who helped you, and R, the result, PAR. No, I'm not a good golfer. Trust me, you don't want me near a golf club. It's not a pretty picture either. But anyway, it works for anything from entry level to executive level. The stronger your story, the more memorable it is. Let's say, for example, if I asked you, tell me about a goal you set for yourself. Oh, you know what? Trying to get my homework done ahead of the due date, not at the due date. Procrastinators. Okay, that's really not a great example. It's not memorable. It's not credible. But saying, hey, how about I decided to windsurf the English Channel. So every day at 6 a.m, I got up and went to the Charles River and just practiced windsurfing. Didn't matter, rain, sleet, hailstorm, whatever. I had to be out there. If I cannot commit for 30 days, I had no right to be in the English Channel. 30 miles of very rough seas. So it was my personal challenge. What that does is not only answers the question, but it also is memorable. So two things you want to be is credible and memorable. Yeah, remember that person at the English Channel? Wow, they have more guts than we ever have. That's the kind of stuff you want. So think of your very best example. So, for example, if I asked you, tell me about the most difficult decision you had to make at your university. Don't tell me deciding between Econ 101 and, something else. Tell me what you really did. Tell me about a tough class that you had to take. Tell me about it. What you did, what process, what mental process did you go through? They're looking at how you think, because the more you can define it for them, the easier it's for them to picture you in a role and say, hey, not only will you do the job, but you'll do extremely well. Everything comes down to be prepared. And I will tell you, I've seen great applicants look great on resumes. They look great on paper. They get into an interview. By all means, you should have had this job with the highest salary possible. Why did you not prepare? Why did you blow it? Now you got to start from zero again. And if you don't understand what you did wrong, you're going to repeat the same mistake again, or you may try to fix a few things. Or, be careful of some books are not really good. And what they'll tell you is start asking the interviewer questions when you're start the interview. Well, how do you like your job here? Wait a minute, who's doing what to who? What you've just done by following that advice is really bad. You've annoyed the interviewer, especially if they're a trained interviewer. They're going to tell you, I will reserve 5 minutes at the end of the interview for any questions you might have. So don't violate that instruction set by asking your questions. You're doing what the book told you to do, or repeat something that the book told you to say. This is the worst. How to answer 100 of the most frequently asked interview questions. Okay. So the question is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Let's see. Page 49 told me to say, oh yeah, one of my strengths is I'm impatient. I tend to step on toes to get things done. Well, wait a minute. That sounds just like the other two applicants. You guys read the same book? Where do you go to school? Yeah, same school. See the problem with that? Be authentic. Be your authentic self. By that, we don't try to teach you how to parrot answers we want you to give. We want you to dig deep and find your own best examples. You have them. And be authentic, be memorable. If you can do those two things, the job offers will start happening. And remember, these are skills you can learn for a lifetime. And once you master these skills, you will do extremely well. It'll serve you for a lifetime. I don't care if you're entry level to executive level. We coach executives, and they're just as bad. The ones that fail are the ones that don't prepare. And then there's the ones that use executive coaches that come in extremely well prepared for any kind of questions. And they typically get negative outcome questions. Tell me about an initiative you started that did not work out. What did you do? What did you fail to do? What information did you fail to get? Who provided you information? Why didn't you check that information? And how did it turn out? That's an ugly question. So the questions get harder as you go up the ladder, but so does the compensation, and so are the rewards at the end. The better you interview, the more they're going to want you. Simple as that.
Excellent. So thanks again, Joe, for coming on the show. You shared a ton of good information to really help people prepare for their interviews. Be sure to check out Joe's new company, Interview Ready. So interviewready.com. The link's right below. And you can also check out his other company, Accuhire, as well. And again, thanks, Joe, and your team for sponsoring this episode of Cyber Life. Be sure to follow Cyber Life over on our LinkedIn and YouTube channels and connect with us at cyberlife.tv. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode.